Hi there and welcome to Naturally Recovering Autism. I am your host, Karen Thomas, and I want to thank you so much for being here and being a proactive parent and getting the resources that you need to let your child live their most fulfilling and independent life possible. When my own son was diagnosed with autism, I was told to drug him and try behavioral therapies, and there was nothing else that we could do for him but manage his symptoms the rest of his life. But I didn't want to do that. Fortunately, my background in craniosacral therapy of now 30 years let me know that the brain can and does heal, but I didn't know that much about autism. What I did know is that I didn't want to just mask the symptoms with dangerous drugs. I wanted to find the causes and work with them naturally. And fast forward, it took me a decade and a lot of time and effort, but today my son is no longer diagnosable with autism after being told it could not happen. So I'm here to share with you valuable resources to save you the time and some of the expense that I had to spend to figure it out, and to help you let your child lead to their best results possible. Every child's level of recovery is different, but we know that children who couldn't sleep through the night are sleeping now through the night and happily. Their immune systems are now strong where they were once sick all the time. Children who were nonverbal and their parents were told they could never speak are now speaking. Children who were getting D's and F's in school are getting A's and B's, and those that were so anxious all the time and couldn't sit still and were uncomfortable in their own bodies are now calm and happy and relaxed, and they're leading fulfilling and independent lives with friends. This is what we want for our kids. So I'm here to share the resources with you so that you can get the best results for your child, the best possible. And you can start that right now with my free download of the top 7 foods to eliminate beginning today, of the top foods that are the most inflammatory and toxic that are contributing to those physical and behavioral symptoms of autism that your child is having. They're making his life uncomfortable. So you can get that right now at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/7 foods. And feel free to share that with anybody you know who would be interested. And I will also link to it in today's show notes. There's of course a lot more than diet, but this is something you could start doing today that will begin to reduce those symptoms. And I'm happy to share everything I can with you. So right now, let's dive into today's episode.
Today we have a very, very special guest, Paula Vetter, and I'm going to give you a little bit of her background real quick. Paula is actually a friend of mine and a colleague. I've taken my own children to Paula for what we're going to discuss today, which is natural allergy desensitization. Again, this is Karen Thomas at naturallyhealingautism.com, and Paula Vetter's background is that she is an RN, board-certified holistic family nurse practitioner, certified herbalist, a Reiki master and teacher, a certified EFT practitioner, which means emotional freedom technique, certified CIRS practitioner, which means that she is certified in treating people for the mold biotoxin illnesses, and a personal wellness coach. She has more than 30 years experience in traditional and holistic medicine. Paula was a critical care nurse instructor at the world-renowned Cleveland Clinic for more than a decade, taught nursing at 2 Ohio colleges, and practiced primary care in a business family practice in Medina, Ohio for 18 years, prior to moving her integrative medical practice to Paso Robles, California, where I am fortunate enough to have had her land in my backyard so that my children could benefit from this amazing treatment that we're going to discuss today. So again, good morning, Paula.
Hi, Karen. It's delightful to be here with you.
I appreciate you giving us your time. So a lot of our listeners have never heard of natural allergy desensitization or natural allergy elimination. And those who maybe have heard of it need to know more or are wondering if there's anything real behind it. So would you go ahead and just kind of start explaining a little bit to our listeners?
I'll be happy to do that. And if you have any questions as we go along, just feel free to jump in. But I'll kind of give you an overview. I've been doing energy medicine for oh gosh, probably 2 decades now. And I had the good fortune when I was living near Cleveland, Ohio, to work with Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, who actually is the physician who developed this particular technique of allergy elimination. It's a third generation allergy technique. There were 2 techniques that preceded it, and one of them is widely available. It's called NAET for Dr. Nambortapad, who developed it. And NAET is available across the country. There are lots of practitioners, chiropractors, acupuncturists, natural medicine people who do that. One of Dr. Namborapad's students, Ellen Cutler, kind of streamlined that technique a little bit and named it BioSet. And then several years later, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny took the best of NAET and BioSet and added another component of balancing energy meridians, and came up with her technique, which is called SRT, or sensitivity reduction technique. And as I said, I had the good fortune of working with Sherry for about 4 years in Cleveland before moving to California. When we look at allergies, and this is definitely outside the box. I mean, when you talk to most conventional Western medicine allergists, they don't know about this or don't understand how it works. Everything in the body, everything in the universe is about energy. And energy is the very foundation. It is the basis that our anatomy and our physiology are based on. So when you work on an energetic level, as you know, you're getting to the foundation of the problem. When we have an allergy, it's our immune system looking at a substance as something that's a threat to us. Whether it's a peanut, whether it's a plant pollen, whether it's a plastic that our skin comes in contact with, when our body encounters that, the immune system says, oh my gosh, this is dangerous. We have to protect Karen from this substance. And so your immune system mounts this big response. It causes histamines to be released. It causes cytokines, another inflammatory chemical in the body, to be released. And most people with allergies get pretty typical conventional symptoms like itchy eyes, runny nose, sneezing, maybe a skin rash. Those are common allergy symptoms, although the allergy symptoms can be a little more stealth. It can be brain fog, it can be fatigue, it can be irritability, it can be bloating, any number of things as a reflection of the inflammation that goes on. So what natural allergy elimination does is not to mask symptoms. It's not antihistamines. It's reprogramming the immune system that has misinterpreted something as a threat. It reprograms the immune system and says, recognize this substance. We know it's not part of Karen, but it's not a big deal. So next time you see this, understand that it's not a threat, and we want you to stop overreacting to it. So it's a very powerful natural technique. It's non-invasive. There are no side effects, and it really gets to the underlying cause of the problem. And people say, is it real? Is it all in your head? Is it just placebo effect? It works for animals. It works for infants. The youngest patient I treated was a 9-week-old infant with failure to thrive who could not keep down any formula. She'd been to gastroenterologists who had, changed a number of things, and she just wasn't getting any better. Terrible skin rashes, constant projectile vomiting. We found out that she was allergic to high fructose corn syrup. She was allergic to dairy. She was allergic to soy. And while they had put her on a very expensive formula, there were trace amounts of both high fructose corn syrup and soy in that formula. So once we treated her for the allergies, within 4 weeks she was gaining weight and thriving, and the vomiting had stopped being an issue. The skin rash was probably 25% better and continued to improve. So yeah, it's not just all in your head. It does work on a very deep energetic level.
And I remember I know that people have come to the Tenpenny Clinic when you were even working there from 38 states and 7 foreign countries.
Yes.
So that is pretty significant. I mean, people aren't going to be traveling from those types of distances if this doesn't have quite the health record following it, and that it shows that it works. And I know that when I brought my own children and myself to you, that you do this very specific type of testing where you can tell if it affects which system, the circulatory, the neurological, etc. So can you explain that a little bit too?
Yes, when the SRT or sensitivity removal technique, or I just call it natural allergy elimination, that's easier to remember. What we do is we use a combination of kinesiology, which is muscle testing, homeopathy, which is the vials of the different substances that we test for, and acupressure, which is how we introduce this information to the system. So the first thing we do, I've got probably 600 vials that we test people. We muscle test them by holding specific vials. If we put something in the energy field that doesn't resonate well with the body, that the body doesn't like, it will literally repel that substance. It's like putting the similar poles of two magnets together and they repel each other. Your body does that energetically with things that don't agree with it. When you repel a substance, that takes energy, which means a little less energy you've got to hold your arm up. And so there will be weaknesses on the substances that don't resonate with your body. So we run through all of these different vials. There's foods and food additives and preservatives and plants and pollens and plastics and petroleum products and fragrances and cleaning products, just the whole variety of things that people are exposed to on a day-to-day basis. So then we're able to identify what your body specifically doesn't resonate well with. There may be some of those that you say, well, I'm never around that. You know, if you're allergic to zebras and you're never around zebras, it's not a problem. If you're allergic to rutabaga and you say my life will be complete if I never eat a rutabaga, we don't have to treat you for that. But we may identify, a handful, sometimes it's 20 or 30 different things that people are affected by. If they're things that are part of your lifestyle and you don't want to give them up, then we can treat you for those. When we're testing, first of all, we find out what those substances are, and then we go through and look at what body systems are they affecting? Is it brain? Is it circulation? Is it, neurological function? We're able to tell, is it skin? And then we look at anatomy, physiology, brain, circulation. We look at the different mudras and see which ones are weakest. So again, that allows us to kind of zero in on the areas that are weakest. And with Sherry's system, we have balancing vials from Chinese energy medicine. These are homeopathic vials that help give the immune system the information that it needs. So I tell people the best analogy for this is that, because it is a problem of the immune system misinterpreting a stimulus, what we do is literally reboot your internal computer and we install new software. Rebooting the computer involves clicking on the energy pathways, the meridians down the spine. We just use a little spring-activated activator. There's no needles, nothing painful. While the person is holding on to that vial, we click on those energy pathways to introduce that electrical frequency to the immune system. Every substance has an electrical frequency. So peanuts have an electrical frequency, cow's milk has a frequency, gluten has a frequency. So that's how we introduce it to the immune system and say, this is what you've been handling or interpreting incorrectly. And then we use the balancing vial, introducing that energy to the immune system, and that's the new template that it needs. So we say next time you see this substance, instead of doing what you've been doing, which is causing histamines and cytokines to cause allergy symptoms, next time you follow this template. And we literally, introduce that energy template to the immune system so it knows not only not to react act incorrectly, it knows exactly what it's supposed to do next time it encounters that substance.
And that's one of the things that I really like about SRT. The NAET, Nabutropad's method, is wonderful, but I found, because I had done that with my children before I found you, and the difference really is that with Nabutropad's elimination technique, they can only desensitize to one allergen at a time, and then it doesn't redirect those energies. That's kind of the final of the treatment, is it's over and there's no redirection with the vials. SRT is able to desensitize for multiple allergens in one session, so it really saves a lot of time and money in the long run too, I find.
Exactly. And I tell people, when you tell the immune system simply stop doing what you're doing, it's kind of like taking a toy away from a toddler. You're just saying you can't do this anymore. Well, unless you give them something to substitute, sometimes there's a tantrum that follows. So by redirecting and telling the immune system not only don't do this instead, it's an easier transition. You're right. NAET is wonderful. It was a fantastic breakthrough. And the advantage is it is readily available to people. And it does help a great deal. But when you've got the ability to do the SRT with the balancing, it does refine and streamline and kind of give a little finesse so that the immune system is able to proceed more smoothly.
And I will link, and they're on my website, naturallyhealingautism.com, under natural allergy desensitization. You can find the links for the NAET, and then the next foundation is called BioSet, which is Dr. Ellen Cutler's method, and then there's SRT, sensitivity reduction technique. So there are 3 different types of techniques, and I will link to each of them because, like Paula just mentioned, NAET is readily available, which means more people have been trained in it throughout the world. So it's much easier to find those people or those practitioners maybe a little bit closer to you. And I always promote people driving a distance if they need to for these sessions as well. If you don't have one in your town or really close by, it is worth a drive, even if it's an overnight trip, to go see one of these practitioners. So Paula, since I mentioned the 3 foundations, would you just give a little bit of a background on each so that our listeners are aware of a little bit more of what I'm talking about?
Yeah, with the foundational treatments, those are, before we get into specific allergies, sometimes I'll have somebody come in and say, I'm allergic to my cat. Can you treat me for my cat? And the short answer is yes, I can, but allergies are cumulative. On a scale of 1 to 10, most people have to get to about a 6 before they have symptoms. And cats may be a 4, but it's not unless you're exposed to other things at the same time or in the same time period that it adds up to a 6 and you have symptoms. So what I usually suggest is doing an evaluation. And the first thing we look at are the foundations. The first is the body's internal environment. Is there anything that you're reacting to within your own system, kind of an autoimmune kind of process? So we look at that. Then we look at basic food molecules, not specific foods like, peanuts or wheat, but it would be things like proteins, fats, amino acids, oils, vitamins, minerals. And it's not a true allergy to a vitamin or mineral, but it's a misperception so they're not metabolized. I have lots of people who say, well, I take vitamin D every day and I take a good amount, but my vitamin D is always low. It may not be being recognized and metabolized properly. So I like to look at the basic food molecules and see if you're resonating with those and handling them well. So body's internal environment, basic food molecules, and then the third one that's really big is plastics and petroleum products. And we're surrounded by those constantly. We're touching them, we're absorbing them through our skin, we're inhaling them, all the air fresheners and volatile products that are released into the atmosphere. A lot of people have sensitivities to plastics and petroleum products. And dermatologists, for people who have skin allergies, skin rashes and eczema and psoriasis and things like that, most of the creams and ointments that go on the skin are in a petroleum product. I had one young man who had been seen by 2 dermatology specialists at Stanford and was continuing to get worse. He had terrible eczema head to toe, and his skin was just raw and cracked and weeping. He came to see me as a last resort. He wasn't sure he really believed in this, but he was continuing to get worse. And he was highly allergic to petroleum products. What did his dermatologist have him doing every night except after his shower? He was to cover himself in Vaseline from head to toe, and that was a huge allergen. So once we took away the Vaseline, put him on coconut oil, and treated him for his plastic and petroleum allergies, he began to get better within about 4 days.
Wow. Yeah, I remember when my own daughter, when I brought her to you, we found that she had an allergic, was having an allergy to plastics, and I had no idea that she had that at all. It wasn't something, I mean, I was expecting a little bit more along the food lines, want to check on, gluten and dairy and et cetera. But that was really surprising to me that she was actually responding to plastics. And since then, I know other people that have come to you and seen other practitioners for this, and plastics are very, very common. I think it's because we have so much inundated exposure these days to them that the system is starting to react, the immune system is starting to react to them.
Exactly.
And I also know that there was a study done. And I think that that's really helpful also for kind of validating this a little bit as well. So can you explain the study that was done on natural allergy elimination?
Yes, when I was working with Dr. Tenpenny, we did a 5-year clinical study looking at people who went through the allergy elimination, and 87% of people at the end of 5 years were still 100% allergy free. Now nothing works 100% of the time for 100% of people, but 87% was huge, and 92% of people said that they saw significant improvement. People who were using, who had seasonal allergies, and maybe they were using Claritin from May until October, they might have still needed to use some Claritin or Flonase for 6 or 8 days a year, but not for 5 months. So sometimes, symptoms that were, an 8 out of 10 on a scale of 10 will now become a 2 out of 10, and it's a whole lot easier to live with. So, we definitely saw the advantages, and a similar study was done in 2001 and published in the Journal of Alternative Medicine, and their statistics were very similar. So there is good information and hard data that it does work. The fact that we don't understand all of the mechanics behind it. It works on an energy level, which is harder to measure. But when we look at blood levels of things like histamines and cytokines that you can measure in the blood, we find that they are dramatically decreased without the side effects of medication. I tell people there's only one side effect to this, and it's a good side effect, and that is, if you remember, allergies are your immune system's reacting to something that it thinks is a threat to you. So if you have seasonal allergies or food allergies or pet allergies, and you've got 15 or 20% of your immune system over here paying attention to something that it really should not be involved with, that's 15 or 20% of your immune system that can't focus on fighting off bacteria and viruses and yeast and fungus and all of the things that it needs to be concerned with. So when we treat people with allergies and free up their immune system, get it disengaged from those things that it shouldn't be involved with, now their immune function in terms of fighting off the bad guys is much more efficient. So we see in kids especially fewer ear infections, fewer colds, fewer sinus problems because we've just normalized the immune function.
Yeah, I remember there are so many hidden factors. My daughter, again, she used to go just kind of crazy when I would take her to this gymnastics class when she was little. And I found out when we saw you that she had an allergy to talc, and they were putting talc on their hands to hang on the bars.
Right.
And that was like, what? And then I noticed that in a lot of natural supplements that I find in good health food stores, you really have to read your labels, and especially if you don't know you have a talc allergy, that talc is something that is put into a lot of supplements.
Yeah.
So you can be ingesting it as well. So it's definitely a good thing to go at least even one time to find out what you or your child have as far as those allergens, so that you can not only get them desensitized, so your immune system can be stronger and work on the things it's really needing to work on, like bacterial viruses and things in your environment.
You know, it's funny because, you think, well, I can go to an allergist and I can get tested. And, they can test for lots of foods and pollens and things like that. But sometimes it's the off-the-wall stuff. I had a competitive swimmer who was having problems, and they couldn't figure out what, it sounded like pretty conventional allergy stuff. And, we tested the pool water and, checked to see if there was exhaust coming into the indoor pool. Was it a diesel kind of thing? We found out she was allergic to styrene. Well, every day she used that styrene kickboard, in front of her as she was doing exercises in the pool and just inhaling the vapors from the styrene. So we treated her for that, and the allergy went away. But sometimes it's just the off-the-wall stuff that you have to, kind of be a detective. But once we identify it, the body's able to handle it. We have wisdom in every cell of our body that surpasses anything that we're able to do outside of that. So if we just, learn to tune into what the body's telling us and then use the body's own intelligence to correct the misperception, it's amazing how healthy people can get.
Yeah. Yeah, it was huge for our family, and children on the autism spectrum or with symptoms of ADD, ADHD, they benefit tremendously from this. It's surprising how many of these, the things that they're allergic to are really affecting not only their immune system, but their neurological systems. Their brain is really being affected, so the behavioral aspects can change drastically.
Absolutely.
And their health. I mean, it's really amazing. So yeah, I highly recommend it. We had great results with you. And again, I will... because what Paula does is as a sensitivity reduction technique, and that's at 10pennyimc.com, which I'll link to, and then Nambutrapods. There are a lot of trained practitioners throughout the world, naet.com, and then Ellen Cutler's method, the BioSet. I will link to all three of these so that you can find a practitioner near you, or hopefully one near you. And again, if you have to drive a little distance, I highly recommend it. Your child, you can benefit so greatly from this work. And Paula, do you have anything else that you want to add before we come to a close?
Just that, you and I are on the same page, Karen, and always have been, that, the body has tremendous healing abilities if we just work with it instead of against it. And, while antihistamines will give you some relief quickly, it's a Band-Aid and not solving the problem. So it's about getting to the foundation of this, doing what the body already knows how to do, and just, as I said, kind of rebooting that computer, installing new software, and the results are amazing.
Right. It's always about, not just treating symptoms, but actually finding the cause and then helping the body to work with the cause of the issue to support the system so that it can heal it.
You bet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very, very much again, Paula, for coming today and sharing this with our listeners. I think a lot of people will benefit from this information, and I know that my own family has, and I really, really appreciate you sharing your time and your expertise with us.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much again.